ẹ̀yin èèyàn wa ẹ jẹ́ ká jọ jùmọ̀ kọ orin ilẹ̀ Yorùbá àwa ni ògo adúláwọ̀. Tí mo wà káàkiri orígun mẹ́rẹ̀ẹ̀rin àgbáláyé mo kí yín káàbọ̀ sí orí ètò ti àṣálẹ́ yìí níbi tí ẹ tún máa fi ọ̀rọ̀ jomitoro ọ̀rọ̀ pẹ̀lú bàbá wa Pa Alex Ajala. Eléyìí ni àkọ́kọ́ irú rẹ̀ ni bàbá wa máa dáṣe fúnra wọn, àwọn nìkan náà máa dáṣe. Mo kàn máa introduce wọn ni wọ́n dẹ̀ máa bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí gbé ẹlẹ́rù ló máa ń gbẹ́rù ẹ̀ gẹ́gẹ́ bí òwe ẹ̀yin àgbàlagbà. Bàbá ẹ má bínú pé tó ṣe bí òwe o, ṣé àlàáfíà lẹ́wà gbogbo ilé ńkọ́ àwọn gbogbo àwọn ará ilé ńkọ́ ṣé àlàáfíà ni gbogbo wọn wà? Ẹ kálẹ́ sà.
Ẹ kálẹ́ o, mo kí gbogbo yín o, ẹ kú jòkó, ẹ kú tó bá jẹ́ ìdúró lẹ́wà tàbí ibi iṣẹ́, mo kí gbogbo yín. Àwọn míì máa wà níbi iṣẹ́ ní ibi tán wà ní àgbáyé sìn, àwọn kan tí ń sùn, àwọn kan dẹ̀ wà pé wọ́n ṣẹ̀ fẹ́ lọ sùn ni. Mo kí gbogbo àwọn tó ń dúró láti gbọ́ díẹ̀ lára àwọn nǹkan tí mo ní sọ.
Ẹ ṣé bàbá.
Púpọ̀ èèyàn mi gbogbo.
Láṣálẹ́ yìí ẹ̀yin lè máa dákú ọkọ̀ ètò náà, nítorí ìdí èyí mo fà lé yín lọ́wọ́ nígbà tí bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ṣe ń ṣe lọ èmi náà máa wà ń bẹ̀ ìmọ̀ mi ní bá yín dá sí ẹ̀yin náà kílẹ̀ máa ṣe. Bàbá ó dọwọ́ yín dọwọ́ Ọlọ́run. Ẹ kálẹ́ sà.
Ẹ kálẹ́ o, mo tún kí gbogbo yín. Ẹ kálẹ́ o. Ọ̀rọ̀ pọ̀ ní ìwé kọ́bọ̀, inú ìwé kọ́bọ̀ la ti ń gbọ́n wá láyé ìgbà ohun tá a wà ní iléèwé àkọ́bẹ̀rẹ̀ tó yẹ pé èdè wa náà fi kọ́ wa. Wọ́n sọ fún apá àgbọ̀ Yorùbá láyé ìgbà ohun. Èdè wa àti èdè ìbò was learnt as a language, and our language was principal form of communication. Àwọn ìwé ìṣirò, ìwé ìmọ̀tótó àti gbogbo ẹ̀ la nígbà yẹn. Ṣùgbọ́n nǹkan tí ọ̀rọ̀ mi dá lé lórí lónìí ni pé mo fẹ́ mú sí gbogbo alétí again pé Ìgbòho òòṣà, Ìgbòho tí àwọn adigunjalè ni mo máa pè wọ́n, torí òru náà rìn, so wọn yàtọ̀ sí adigunjalè tó ń pera wọn ní DSS. Mo gbọ́ pé over 200 of them pẹ̀lú àwọn sójà tó wá láti Niger àti tiwa náà tó ń kóra wọn pọ̀, wọ́n lọ jalè nílé Ìgbòho. Ilé gbogbo wa náà ti jalè, a lè dákẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀. Nígbà tá a ti mọ àwọn tó jẹ́ olè, ẹ̀tọ́ wa ni pé ká pè wọ́n sẹ́jọ́. Ọ̀rọ̀ ìyẹn ọ̀tọ̀ ni ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn tó wà nílẹ̀. Mo mọ̀ pé àwọn kan ti dúró lórí ẹ̀ tí wọ́n ti ṣe oríṣiríṣi gudugudu méje nípa ti ẹjọ́ tí gbogbo wa ní, kì í ṣe Ìgbòho nìkan, pẹ̀lú àwọn adigunjalè tó ń pera wọn ní DSS. The fact is very clear. You cannot go and arrest somebody in the middle of the night with gun blazing. Even in the Western films, blazing saddles, they don't go in the night. A dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ Ọlọ́run pé ó dá ẹ̀mí Ìgbòho lẹ̀ fún wa, ó dá sí. Gbogbo wa ni wọ́n dá sí. We are living to fight another day. Àmọ́ bá ṣe máa ja ogun yẹn. Tí wọ́n pamọ́ sínú igbó wa, fúnra wọn máa jáde kúrò ìgbà tó bá yá. Àti bọ́tìnbọ́ tó ń kólẹ̀ wọn máa gbàgbé ẹ̀ tó máa sá lọ. Àgbà Elédùmarè. Àṣẹ náà ti wà ń bẹ̀. Nǹkan tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ bọ̀, ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wa fojú sí pé a nílùú. Wọ́n ti yọ wá kúrò Nàìjíríà tipẹ́ láti 2018. Officially, which has not been declared, many documentations have been rewritten about the land space called Nigeria. It now includes Niger. And that's why in the night of the attack on Igboho, there were certain members or elements of the people who came in were speaking in French. That cannot be denied. There's an infusion of French elements into the Nigerian army already. And a lot of them, with particular reference to Niger. If you look at the map of West Africa, I will want those listening to open up a map of West Africa, a large map of West Africa, and look at the country north of Nigeria. It borders on almost all the 12 Sharia states. And some of the emirates in the one that we call Nigeria extends their power into Niger. For example, the Dara Emirate extends to Zenda in Niger, if you look at the map. So there's nothing that has separated us as a country. One mistake we all make is that we always say nation. Nigeria is not a nation. It's composed of different nations and caliphates and emirates and smaller nations. When some people describe that we have 500 languages, and one thing we don't realize that most of these languages are ones that are understood by almost every other person around those geographical space which they occupy. They can communicate with each other. So I will reduce the land space of Nigeria to what the NRO had defined before, the 6 geopolitical regions. So we can, not taking on that, we know from the beginning that the country was amalgamated, wrongly anyway, and regrettably, even by those who did it, because it's contained in their documentation, that it was too late to remove it. But Lugard was hell-bent on delivering a very large chunk of West Africa as his own legacy of his effort, having worked for the colonial government from Hong Kong to Uganda to Kenya, and then back to Nigeria twice, and finally stayed in Nigeria from 1914 to 1919, where he gave an incisive report which included the amalgamation letter patent called the document, a letter patent. is a document that prevents other nations around them from coming into the territory so defined. So Nigeria was created at the expense of the French. And so the French now took the rest part of the area they are struggling for, which is the area around the river Niger, and called their own Niger, and we call our own Nigeria. So invariably, if you look at it clearly, we have two Nigerias in West Africa. That's a fact. But those of us in Nigeria are so bent on saying, oh, we have a nation. What nation in the first place? Did our forefathers have a hand in the creation of that nation? The answer is no. They were never consulted. The only time our forefathers in the southwest and Lagos had anything to do with bringing together the people was when the Alafin Adeyemi I signed a treaty of cooperation, trade, and development with the British colonial travelers, I would call them. They were creating places for their trade. If you remember, that was the age of agrarian and industrial revolution. Industrial revolution following very closely behind the agrarian revolution. So they needed new markets for raw material and new markets for the sale of their finished products. So our people should have taken cognizance of this. Our political elites, the front runners, I will call them. I don't call them founding fathers because they did not found Nigeria in the first place. Nigeria was created at the expense of the French. And that's why some of you remember that CFAO and SCOA operated in Nigeria. That was of compensation to the French for taking over the juicy part of the areas drained by the river Niger and Benue away from the French, and also from the Germans on the eastern part. The Germans were a little bit lucky that they got the area now called Southern Cameroon. The British were almost getting there to the Cameroon Mountain, what they call the Mount Cameroon and Buya and Victoria. You see, some of those places were even still named after the British monarch, the city of Victoria. But of course, that's the story of the Germans losing that place, and the place became a plebiscite ruled place for the British after the First World War. So that was how South Cameroon became part of Nigeria. You see that chunk taken out of the map of Nigeria on the southeastern part. That's where Southern Cameroon was. And some of us might remember the EMN Delhi family that were representing the people at that time. You see, geography explains what is Nigeria, but the history does not fully explain what is Nigeria, because a lot of books have done a lot of what we call chronological mistakes by describing that land space in the 1800s as Nigeria. It never existed. One of these authors, a great historian called Michael Crowder, who wrote The History of Nigeria, started describing certain places as Nigeria when they were not Nigeria. They were West African places in West Africa that later became Nigeria. That was how you should have described it, because the young persons today reading history will follow letter by letter, except if he knows the background behind it, and finds out, okay, how come you are talking of Nigeria in 1800 when Nigeria came about in 1914? So we should read some of this book with a pinch of salt. We reprocess the information. That is what I advise a lot of us to do. When you read information, look at the background, look at the genesis, look at how it all started. Then you'll be able to have an informed opinion not only informed, informed facts that you can now tell others this is what it is. Where I'm coming towards some critical events that happened, but let us still go and explore what and how this place came to be. If we look at the history of the North, most of that northern area was occupied by Hausa kingdoms, but those kingdoms have disappeared now because the Fulanis, by playing the game of the thief in the night, also took over Gogobiri, as some of us will remember that Awara Gogobiri, some of them ran on their foot down to our land in Yoruba land in West Africa, as it was then. Yoruba land in West Africa, which extends even to Benin and to Togo, and even up to the boundaries with Kumasi, Ashanti people. We had boundaries with them in the past. Then jumping across, we have our people also in the Ivory Coast. If you look at the population there in the Ivory Coast, we have over 3 million people in there who were there even before Nigeria was formed. They didn't just go there as people of diaspora. They were settlers that were traveling. Our people were great travelers. My great-grandfather actually went to Kumasi to buy gold to perform the marriage rites of his wife, my mother's mother. And I'm from Akoko. If you look at the map, you see it's a very long distance, yet he got there. And how? You know the history of the Yoruba race. Ó lè jẹ́ Egbe náà lò tàbí Kanoko. And so they were able to go there and come back with no fear of favor, no attack of any marauders on the road. Yorubaland was peaceful and welcoming. Even this great English traveler in the desert called Clapperton, when he came through Yorubaland, and which they now recorded in their archives, that anytime you are going through West Africa and you happen to come towards the bend of the mouth of the rivers, the creeks of the Niger, you go through Yorubaland because they are a more welcoming race than any other. To the point that Clapperton was advised in going to Borno and Sokoto, he had to go under a pseudonym of Rais Abdullahi so that he would not be killed, severed off his head from his body. So that was how he covered his journeys in the north. But in our place, it was open. He was ordinarily Clapperton. And then he got to Oyole, the capital of Oyo Empire then, and he described the place aptly as a city that is about 15 miles radius, well planned, and the Oba's palace, the Afin, centered, and in the front of the Afin is what we now most of the time call Ojaoba. That appears in almost all cities in Yorubaland. He knew about that. He recorded it. Those are factor things. He did not say that place was Nigeria then, just like my good friend alluded, Crowder, in his book, The History of Nigeria. You see, the history of Nigeria will be better presented when the chronological events that happened before it emerged is detailed out. It's just like somebody describing this great Yoruba merchant. He was of the British naval merchant. It's called Prince Labulo Davis. And some people call him a Nigerian. No, he wasn't. He died in 1906. There was no Nigerians at that time. How could he be a Nigerian? See, these are some of the basic things we have been facing. That because we don't understand who we are. And that's what I have been insisting. We do not understand who we are. And if we do, we shouldn't have been in Nigeria. particularly in 1967 and 57. When we were given the option of having our independence, we opted for self-rule, and that we are going to wait for our brothers from the north. That was the killer nail that nailed the coffin of our progress. As at 1957, Western region possessed one of the best civil service system institutions in the world outside Europe. In 1957, Western region had one of the best civil service institutions in the world outside Europe. This means they were able to manage their resources, they were able to run free health service, free education, agricultural development and research stations all over the place, with School of Agric Akure being one of the main centers for research, and all other places. The Olokemeji and the Fashola, and then the industrial estates, all that were in Western Nigeria. So some of us growing up, we say, Nigeria down back. I keep on reminding them, it was not Nigeria, it is Western Nigeria. Because if you traveled out then, you start to wonder. I remember when I got to Ofine about 1966, I was wondering, is this part of the country I belong to? And then even in Lorient, and the further you go, the further you find the very diverse differences in terms of the landscape, in terms of the people, in terms of even the environment itself. We are not one. You see, the political language of saying we are one, even this man who turned court in his rhetoric, General Gowon, he said the basis for Nigeria unity does not exist. And then he now changed it. And then they started singing to keep Nigeria as a task that must be done. Should it be a tax? Should the people not decide where they want to belong to? And one thing most of us did not realize, right from before independence, what is happening today had been planned 200 years ago. What is happening today that is happening to us had been planned 200 years ago, and could have been fully executed under Balewa but for the coup. That's a fact. If you go through the history of those who know, it could have been fully executed. They would have, by then, under Balewa, turned Nigeria into an Islamic republic, a full and Islamic republic. Some of us will have some sweet memories and say, I was a gentleman, he was this and that. But underneath the cloak, they had a very dastardly plan for all of us. Unfortunately, some of our politicians did not see this. Some of us young men at that time saw it. Because I personally never learned the Nigerian national anthem. When all my mates were jumping up and down, hey, we have freedom. I said, we didn't have freedom. So what are you talking? I said, this is the truth. This is the truth. How will you look at a place that has hardly been developed, and the leadership, in the name of my great leader, Olowo, cannot become somebody in that kind of country? I was even ridiculed on the day of independence, to the point that maybe it's one of the things happening to us now. The flag was not raised down at the stroke of 12 midnight because they were looking for him to do a restitution. Let us bring him back to the earth. He was in the main crowd. Yet there was one Oshinaga I want to mention. Some of the picture had been circulated on the web and on the social media. He was so annoyed that he tried to raise a force to get Yorubaland out of Nigeria. He was murdered in 5 years later after independence. So our quest for the dissolution of Nigeria did not just start, it started with Oshinaga. And we should remember him when we finally get our new nation back. And to do that, we have to be calling for the dissolution of the amalgam. When the creators believed that it was not going to last long. Thatcher, in his visit to Nigeria during her time, after leaving South Africa, came and then observed the country and said, somewhat artificial. Are the people so indolent and cannot think about their own future? It's in her book. That's the Prime Minister of that. But some of us believe that Britain is trying to stop us from not developing. I will ask the question, why did they allow all to succeed so tremendously under their own under their own rule? And the fact that they gave us even our own pseudo embassy because we were not independent yet, so we called it the I just escaped me. You know where I'm talking about. The current Nigerian embassy belongs to Western Nigeria, and that is where we source for everything that we use, to the point that we were able to build our television in 3 months. In 3 months, everything was efficiently done. And if people using Yoruba, if people Kowoje, I would like to say that if there was any embezzlement, it was easily tracked down and the people rightly punished. It happens all over the world anyway, but now it has become a currency of rule almost in every part of Africa for government officials or politicians to embezzle the money and leave the people poor. Look at the situation happening to our health service. People die cheaply because they cannot afford medical health fee. If we still had free health service as it is in Britain here, by the way, free health service in Nigeria, in Western Nigeria, sorry to mention Nigeria, in Western Nigeria, Yorubaland, was started in 1954, just 6 years after Britain established its own. Even after a very serious war, where you will expect that they will not have money to do it. But they made sure they got money to establish free health service, to make sure they take care of their own kind, their people, so that people don't die on the wayside because they don't have money to pay for medical services. 1948, free health service was established. If we continued our own in Western Nigeria, if we were out of Western region, by now this year we will be celebrating 67 years of free health service, and people not dying cheaply by the roadside, and pregnant women not dying cheaply because of mere complications, or even people dying because of asthma effect. We should be our brothers' keeper. We should sit back and think, are we really living as Yoruba people? To me, we are not living. Even though we pretend to be happy. I was watching one video that said the happiest people in the world are Nigerians. It is not happiness. Wọ́n fi ìyẹn pàrònú rẹ̀ ni. It's just a facade, a creation, because even after such parties where they exhibit that kind of happiness, by the time they are going home, they are already thinking, how am I going to survive for today or tomorrow? I know one woman where I was living in Ibadan. She would always go to parties, not because she needed to go, but because to go and take home food for the family for the rest of the week till Friday. And Saturday, they go for another cycle of party attendance. Is that a life that we should continue? When we have abundance in our land, when, if properly organized and managed, and land will be flowing with milk and honey. And now talk of the resources that we have. God's gift. Properly managed. We have the manpower to do all these things. Now we are letting ourselves down. We want to be slaves. We criticize ourselves when we should look towards the future. We are all in Europe and America. Should we be here? Some of us say one should celebrate getting either green card or the red party. For what? It's just a temporary thing. We should be grateful to our hosts all over. But let us think of home. Let us think of one voice. Don't let us continue to fractionalize into different organizations. We don't need that. We have a one issue agenda. That one issue agenda is the freedom of the Yoruba race, the dissolution of the amalgam. That's one issue. The agenda should be what all of us should pursue. I'm so icked by hearing people describing them executive of that, president of that, when we are not addressing the one issue agenda. We don't know all who the number of us in Europe and America and the Brazilians. Professor Banji advised a long time ago that we should try as much as possible to get a database. And to get a database, we need to have a powerful system whereby we can store this, a data storage system. And just like Facebook does and the other social media, we need just one or two, so that we know the number of us, both outside and inside that contraction called Nigeria. It's a contraption. It's squeezing us to death, particularly the Yoruba race. Yoruba race shall not die. We are going to wake up to our reality. We should stop all this unnecessary fractionalization to different groupings. We should focus on the one issue agenda, the freedom of our people. And when we focus on that, the leadership, I will say, without missing words, is Professor Banji Akintoye. He's the one that is known. He's going to be the one to lead us out. And we should all work with him now, before it is too late. We should all work with him, because there are things that he wishes that we should do together, particularly the idea of funding, a common purse, not scattered to purse with different organizations, go fund me this and that, we have that. No, we should have one like the Israelis. Of course, I will jolly well announce that the Prof had made sure that that kind of purse had been established. But we are not bringing it out until we know that every one of us will focus onto one route towards presenting our case internationally. We haven't presented our case internationally. We've just been writing letters. No, we want a physical presentation of our case internationally to the world, starting from Britain to Germany and to the US. I said Germany because that's the source of our problem. If the Bismarck issue did not come up, if the fractioning of the continent of Africa did not come up, then we would not be in this case. That's the way I see it. If you disagree with me, please can you stop me so far and let us have a chat? Anybody on the line that wants to talk back to me on this issue, because I have some other very important points I need to raise about the map of West Africa that I opened up. And please, those of you listening, open up a map of West Africa that contains, a large map of West Africa that contains Niger and Nigeria closely together, and maybe expand it. You see the towns. Maradi is just north of Katsina State. And that's where our current president comes from. You remember the argument during the time the coup Buhari Aiju, it came up. And when they were saying that Atiku was not a Nigerian, Atiku is more of a Nigerian than even our president. That's a fact. Because he was born in the colonial colonial territory that was taken by the Germans and given to the British to manage. He was not born before that time. He was born in the British territory of the Northern Cameroons. British territory of Northern Cameroons. So, but there's Niger and Maradi outside the boundary of Nigeria as we know it. So who is more of a Nigerian? So that does not interest me. I'm only just telling us that we don't find out who we are. And that is the major problem we are facing. If we do find out who we are, then we will not be having any political accommodation with the people around us. Because number one, if the British did not come, is there any possibility that Bashorun ilẹ̀ Yorùbá máa kọjá odò Ọya sókè lọ́hùn tó máa sọ fún wọn pé ẹjọ́ ẹ jẹ́ ká ìjọ ṣèlú pọ̀? Tí wọ́n máa gbé dẹ̀ tákòbí tàbí gòjé náà máa gbé tán máa fi le, ìyẹn tán bá bẹ̀rẹ̀ kan kó gbé sínú kòkò kó gbé àwọn tán tẹ̀lé wá kan ní ẹgbẹ́ padà lọ bá ọba yín àfẹ́yìn ládùúgbò wa. That would have been the scenario there. Or is it that we go to the Igbo land where they will not even welcome you in the first place? They are human beings, but we traded with them, but they will not welcome us, telling them that let us be one country. But we can still trade. That's what happens worldwide. Enemies trade with themselves. After all, Soviet Union was trading large sums of billions of dollars of rice from the Soviet Union. I said before it was dissolved. Traded with the United States of America, their arch enemy, when they were both building heavy armories of rockets and nuclear weapons against each other, yet they still traded in rice. In 1971, the US sold to the tune of $1.9 billion of rice to the Soviet Union. Yet they were enemies. So ours is not a strange case. If we had stayed there on our own, we can still trade with those who have been trying to take over our land. They never were able to do it, even though they destroyed, they made Oyole to disappear, because the people of Oyole, the Olafin, was wise enough to get himself out of the place, and after moving from one place to the other, ended up with the current place, the Olafin Atiba. Nothing paper ni Oyo Atiba, the current Oyo city, where the current Olafin Adeyemi III is. His senatorialist, the Adeyemi III. Now, Adeyemi II and Kitoye Ajata School visited Lugard in Zungeru during the announcement of the fact that the two countries, the South and North, had been put together. And I will say they did not sign any document of amalgamation. It was an afternoon tea organization, tea party, organized by Lugard. Lugard so hated the South that he never realized that we had already had education institutions in the South even before he stepped the soil of West Africa. I said the soil of West Africa because when he came, there was not a Nigeria. So the chronological mistakes we make. When he came to the soil of West Africa to manage the affairs of Topma Golden, he was already trading the oil river, the creeks. The document itself, I will repeat, was a letter patent, and it was signed by Lord Viscount Harcourt, who the city of Port Harcourt was named after. They were just developing the port there on a promontory, and the promontory is a higher land from the river or creek, where they found that they could have the ships berthing by the riverside. So there was no name for it. And so by the time 1913, when it was the document was signed, they decided to name the port Port Harcourt. So those of you who are from Port Harcourt, your name was one of the reasons that the amalgamation document or letter patent was I would say, the profit that came out of it to Lord Harcourt. And that was the gift of Lugard to him. And Lugard was happy that it finally will be able to deliver the large chunk of West Africa, which he now called the Northern Protectorate of Nigeria, because that name came into currency in 1900, even though it was already being used in some paper trails from 1897, June 30, when this Lady Shaw published the article in the Times newspaper of London that place, the area they are fighting about, should be called Nigeria. It's actually, that name Nigeria was actually meant for the north before it was also added to the Southern Protectorate was called, then they now added it to Southern Protectorate. The Southern Protectorate of Nigeria and Lagos Colony, which had a different in 1888, different agreement with the British colonial sojourners, as I would describe them. A treaty of trade, friendship, and protection. That was the treaty. By the time the amalgam was coming, this treaty was never visited, because there were several treaties, just like it happened in the Congo. The colonial officers usually ignore such things. It's a mere treaty to allow them to penetrate into inland. Just like the Jebus refused them until there was a battle against them coming through the inland for trade. And that also happened in the lower Niger area, the Opobo, and how Opobo, the Jaja of Opobo, was freighted away in a ship where he was told that he was going for a tea, afternoon tea in the ship. He also went to the ship. Before he knew, the ship had drawn anchor and was on its way to Jamaica. That was the time he was supposed to come back. He had died. So that is part of the sad history of the creation of that country. Is anybody interested in asking any question now? Because there's the second part of my discussion for the current issues that is happening. Will come up now. And what is the time now? That's 12:20. We have another 30 minutes more on this program tonight. Well, currently, politically, we were naive. The people we thought did not understand politics understood politics than us. That is the politics of geospace acquisition. We did not think of it. We were thinking about the people. Our great leader was thinking about extending the development he has done in the West into the North and the East. Even though the East started its own and they failed under 9 months, free education and free health. And that was why one of their great followers of Nnamdi Azikiwe, Mbonu Ojike, committed suicide because he was disappointed that his great leader could not do what the West was doing. That's the fact. And because some of the monies that were supposed to be used have been appropriated wrongly by the leadership as at that time. Let's come to 1953 and the census. The census has never been true. Nigeria has been the only country, or particularly one of the only countries in the world, where population is used as a political advantage to get more resources than the others, even though they don't have the population. That showed up in the 1959 election, whereby the North had the least number of votes, but they had the largest number of constituencies. Therefore, they formed the government. That should have rang a bell in our minds. Yet, you want to say the British that did that. The answer is no. We agreed on that formula of the creation of district councils. It was the district councils that were divided up into constituencies when the election was coming. They had more district councils, even though most of the district councils were in empty land. In fact, a typical example is from Bida to New Busa, or New Busa, yes, that's what it's called, where the Kanji Dam is. It's 120 miles. You will hardly find a town or city along that road. You only find the largest number of habitation I saw during the time of travels to the dam for research. In those days, in the 60s, had only 5 grass houses, what they call Zana houses. That was the largest. Others were either 2 or 3. And I count how many of them on the way? 4. And how many people will you estimate to be in such places? They cannot be more than 100. Yet they had constituencies. And that is why some of us who will remember Oshinaga's song, the election of 1959, 62 people were returned unopposed, all in the north. Bakodaya. You remember the song, Oshinaga's song. Because there were no persons there. It's just like now, telecommunications and the setup of telemarks all over the place, mobile marks. In most places, you find that only one person has the ability to have a phone in the areas in the north where they are established. Maybe the tower is to serve just one of the constituent members who's at the federal house. The rest don't. They don't have that. Is it these people we are calling one people with us? I don't hate them. I want them, just like I told the Emir of Kano, the late one, Adobayero. Let everybody be. You already have your Sharia state. Hold on to it as an Islamic republic. Then the rest of us. Then we can trade. We can sign bilateral agreement of common interest so that we construct rules of common standard to link us together. When we reach our boundary, we stop there, and then you reach the boundary, you stop there, making sure that the roads are of the same standard. Just like Europe had standardized all this railway that you can travel on a rail from Paris to Vladivostok on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. Because this is agreement. Even though as at the time these agreements were done, Soviet Union was an enemy, or so-called enemy of the West, but they did it. Trade is an important quotient for life. You don't play with it. But political accommodation of a people who do not know themselves is one of the greatest sins committed by Africans. That's the way I say it. It's the greatest sin, because it has made us become underdeveloped. When Western region was praised as one of the best well set up institutions of development in the 50s, China was still having people riding bicycles. Indonesia was nowhere. Neither Singapore was a marshland. Go back to your Google and Google back. You find it. We were so far ahead. We had research stations. Indonesia came and Malaysia came. They took seeds from our oil palm research stations. And what is it now? It's a major export. What do we have to show for it? Nothing. In really, super area, of course, that's one of the ones I know physically in 1956 when I was a little boy. There's a large oil palm plantation, a sample that was left by the colonial master that we should develop many of that in our land. Did we? No. Because we got subsumed into a Nigeria that we shouldn't have been. If we were separate by now, such places and our cocoa industries all over the place, some of them abandoned, large tracts of cocoa plantation. I'm sorry to say, I happen to be one of the people to be blamed for it. We have a large tract of cocoa along the river in Idogun, that if you cannot, you need a bicycle or a motorcycle to ride through the farm. That to show you the extent and how large it is. And imagine about a billion pounds of cocoa coming out of that place in the corner of Yorubaland and all other places. We will be poor. We will have people begging us in Europe, but because we are unable now, the Fulani are now honing their effort to make sure that even the little farm we are going, we cannot go to those farms. To the point that Dalaf, in one of his depositions last time, said that over 67% of the farmers are unable to go to farm, and that's an increase in farming. That's an increase in poverty. And then international analysis show that in the last 1.5 years now, 11 million people have joined the poverty trap in Nigeria. 11 million people have joined, and it's more than that. She had the already poor this analysis that was given. Wait there. These people, thieves in the night, come to destroy our land, and we are still quarreling amongst ourselves. I'm a chairman of that, I'm not chairman of that, when we should be focusing on a one issue agenda, the freedom of the Yoruba race. That's what we should be focusing on. And under the leadership of Professor Banji Akitoye. Is the eye of all of us. We cannot deny that. And it's the one that is going to march forward to lead us out. Then we will now start our own development the way we want it. And we'll be able to re-establish our free health service and free education, so as to remove the poverty instantly. That was what Britain did after the Second World War, 1948, less than 3 years after the Second World War. They found that if it was left, then there'll be pestilence and famine in the land. Remove that pain from the people. Health, education. What happens? There'll be peace, there'll be development. People will be able to work in the industries that are being established. Is it a hungry person who has no money to pay for his child in the hospital that will want to go and work in a factory in our land? So we should not allow that to happen when we get our new nation back. And that's why we sometimes clamoring that the women should not sit back and watch the men to decide what we are going to do. They should insist on free health service and free education and water supply into homes, not taps outside, into homes. So that a child can wake up and go to the bathroom and turn the tap and have his bath. There's so much water in our land. We're not using it. And this water can also generate electricity. We don't need large dams. We just need to harvest this water. Run them down the slope and then into a turbine and the generator. Electricity, voila. It doesn't take time. Within 9 months, we can do that. We can achieve it if we are focused. It's not difficult. I've gone and seen where it is. I happen to be a member of the British Hydropower Association, so I know what I'm talking about in this field. Is it other areas that I've gone to find how we can do things cheaply so that we don't have to be importing foreigners to come and do work for us when our young men and women are there to do it, when we can organize them into consortiums? That's what we should be focusing on. Leadership will come naturally. After that was how it happened during the Awolowo time. It was because of their activities and actions that they now said, okay, you've been so much in this and that. So he's the leader. Even though the time for decision for most of the things they did, they had committees. They had committees. Committee on transport, committee on education, committee on health. That was how they formed it. Before YWC landed, I started hearing that ọmọ ẹgbẹ́, what is ọmọ ẹgbẹ́? It's an issue. It's an issue organization that has to be sold to everybody. You don't need to be attending it. You just listen to. You belong to the movement. The movement for one, the freedom of the Yoruba race. Not that I'm superior to you or that, and then focus on what to do. Collation of this data, having a powerful server to store it. Prof had even said it earlier during this struggle that we should collect data of those in diaspora before now, that is those that have taken slaves in Brazil and other places of the world, and the Caribbeans and South America and Mexico, and then us who are, or fortunately some of us went through the pain of trekking the desert, and some of us, unfortunately, those who we are going to remember, died in the desert or died in the Mediterranean Sea, barely escaping to the land. Is it what we should continue to watch happen to our people? Or because we are not speaking up? Or because we are not focusing on one agenda, the freedom of the Yoruba race, and some of us condemning it? When you condemn it, you are condemning yourself. It's sad. That's the way I see it. If you are in doubt, or if you are in disagreement, can you please stop me and let me know what you feel about what I've been saying? Because I'll be rounding up to say some very ominous things that is happening to us. I have about 15 minutes more. In recent times, it looks like some of us, because of mere money, we are betraying ourselves. How long are you going to spend the money? It's a shame. Our forefathers never did this. Keep on saying that. In our land, there were no thieves in the night. You put your wares in the front of your house. Maybe overnight, you still meet it there. People passing by will pay and take the goods as it's worth, and you put the money down. Literally, such things are still possible when we focus on one agenda, the freedom of the Yoruba race. Those of us who are politically minded, either that they haven't seen the light, I pity them. We should help them to see. I don't condemn them, they are still Yoruba people. But they should wake up from their slumber. Their self-interest will only destroy them. I'm sorry to say that. Their self-interest will destroy them. And now, the Fulani had been creeping into our land. Yewa and Igbora Igono, Kishi, Lanlate, Kiama, to tracing a line from Badagry northwards to Kanji Dam. There's a bridge over Kanji Dam that leads to Sokoto and the Agungu Festival. 1976, there was an exploratory rally. Most of us in the South were happy. Oh, there's a motor rally in Nigeria. Do you know what it was meant to discover? The possibility of having a new road that will serve the Emirates to the sea. At some point in 1951, Balewa, whom most of you praise, had nothing to do with the South. To the point that he was telling the British officer who came to him that when you lot have eliminated our emirs and you now control our land, will you tell your French colleagues to allow us to use the river that is flowing just below River Niger through Dahomey up to Port Novo as the route for our own exports? They did not want to go through Yorubaland. It's in his book, The Right Honorable Gentleman. And there are many other revelations in this book, which if our leaders in the South, apart from being in this book, there are parts of it are in the archives in libraries all over the place. You remember some of us who are elderly enough, the libraries and the bookstores that were being burnt all over Nigeria during even before Shagari, even under him, Balewa, and the Alafin's library that got burned because of secret documents that will reveal those facts that I'm saying now. That's why the reason those libraries are burned, because when you don't have those facts. And the document on development projects for Nigeria, 1950 to 54, 54 to 1960, I happen to have come across them when I was in the primary school. And we know our primary school times was beautiful. We learned English and Yoruba. So I was able to read a little bit of it and found that before 1960, before independence, they should have broke the ground for the railway between Ibadan to Benin via Ilesha or Akure or and then up to Makfen in the Cameroons. What did Balewa do? He only constructed the railway in his area that linked just to Bauchi to Maiduguri. And they put some modern railways on top of it. Check it out. Yet we keep on struggling. And each time our political parties want to do their so-called annual conference, they go to the north. How many times did the NPC come to the south to have their annual conference? We didn't think. Yet we have PhD holders, we have masters holders, we have what we usually call Ojogbon. What were they looking at? Even some of them were imprisoned during the election and they were not allowed to come out, and yet they come out and they're still singing about Nigeria. It beats my mind. What I'm telling every one of us is that one issue agenda, the freedom of the Yoruba race. Igbo had been attacked. It is all of us that has been attacked. We are not single. Even though some of you say you are opposed to him, we have you you are opposed to him. You also have been attacked. That's a fact. I don't know why you should say you are opposed to him, except if you are a slave, or perhaps you are not one of us. Only that perhaps you understand Yoruba language. Agba Ọlọ́run Olódùmarè, we are going to sieve them out of our midst. What is not time? Wọ́n mọra wọn. Now, recently, during the Ramadan festival, the message by the president was spoken in Hausa. How many people heard him? So the rest of us are not Nigerians. So we no longer belong to that country. So we have a right to say, there are simple things that make countries to go their separate ways. Very simple. What made Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania to leave Soviet Union? It was a simple matter of trade. They no longer want to be subsumed into a Soviet Union that was destroying their ability to develop. Check it out how they got their independence. Wọ́n sowọ́pọ̀ along their boundaries collectively. They are different countries, but they work together to get out of Soviet Union. That's the same way I want the southern Nigerian states to work together to get out of Nigeria by calling for the dissolution of the amalgam. I repeat, the dissolution of the amalgam is the real source of our big problem. If we had not been put together, which even Churchill condemned initially, and that was why he did not attend the 1953 conference, because he had been opposed to the existence of that country. But one of those things most of us don't realize. Kí wọ́n ṣe àwọn British ní ó fẹ́ ká develop. Wọ́n fẹ́ ká develop lẹ́ ní gbogbo mèremère tẹ́ ní in the 50s. Ẹ dá mi lóhùn ẹ̀yin tẹ́ máa sọ pé àwọn British. I know they have that problem. When our people insisted on retaining Nigeria, they kicked in the Soviet containment policy. That is, they don't want the Soviet to take over, because some of us had become calling ourselves comrades and all that jazz, when we don't know the full meaning of comrade. Even the communists who introduced it don't usually call themselves comrades. When I was in the midst of some of my friends and they called us and they start calling me comrades, comrade Alex, I said, don't ever call me comrade Alex. Do you know the meaning of that? Now, the last press conference held by the Attorney General of Nigeria, the press conference was an international press conference. You saw the number of microphones on the table. What language did he speak? Hausa language. Do you know why? To accommodate the rest of their people who are French speaking across the border. A border that no longer exists anyway from a long time. My senior uncles who worked in Seme border, or Diroko as it was called then, when they say Taba Fesimi, we go to the north, because we just sit there and say, welcome, goodbye, welcome, goodbye. They don't check anything. There's never been a border control in the north from even before independence. They just installed some things there. A lot of our people took advantage of it, so to say, to sell refined petroleum oil to Chad Republic. They travel from Ibadan. Some of you are in Ibadan who are hearing me will remember those of them who are selling refined petroleum from Ibadan, having those long journeys across Nigeria to Chad and return. Of course, it was peaceful then, in quotes, because we already had a low-intensity warfare going on. Even in 1953, the killings of the Southerners, all because Akintola came to try to campaign. Akintola was never allowed to step down from the plane, or even when he stepped down, he was told to go back in Kano. You know, the Kano airport. That was to promote the vision of an independent Nigeria for 1956. That was Enahu. He was proud to say it, a young man who was a Kingstonian, that is from King's College, Lagos. And you know what Amadu Bello told him? He said, you should have not been the person to announce it. It should be your leader. But when you follow parliamentary system, which we do understand, which they don't understand, which they understand in their own way, what should happen? Anybody could raise a bill to make an acclamation for a request. But they saw it differently. Now, on your dam, this bill was not completed. Ikaregot dam was not completed. Now coming back, before I got to that one, and that's why I said you should open your maps. And you see that route? That's where the killings is most, because they want to secure it as their passage to the sea. And then officially now dip their Quran and their sword into the sea, which we are still resisting. We should resist it with all our might. Even though sub-officially there is Amadu Bello way, apron stringing Lagos Island along the coastal littoral of Lagos. That's another symbolic statement that we conquered it. The analogy I'm going to bring, but Buhari speaking in Hausa to the people, and the Attorney General speaking in Hausa to the people. Do you know what that means? It's a silent coup. The rest of us are not Nigerians. So we have to go and learn their language. Are we going to prepare to do that now? It's a silent coup that has happened. When Buhari was speaking in Hausa, he spoke with confidence. I watched that video again. An authority. The same thing the other man did. Did anybody challenge him? And most of you listening, the Federal House members, you remember many occasions when your colleagues from the north start speaking their language. You say, what are you? They will tell you, go and learn the language. They know what they are doing. It was a sad occasion for me on the 50th anniversary of Nigeria, as we know it currently. I went to Aso Rock, the residence of the ambassador. I was sat with one Oshobo young man, and then there was some houses on our right-hand side. The Oshobo young man was sitting between me and the houses. Èmi àtòun wá bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ń sọ èdè Yorùbá. Àwọn yẹn náà sọ èdè tiwọn. You know what the young man did? Oh, apologies, we are speaking our language. I said, orí ẹ̀ dàrú ni. Ṣé àwọn sọ apologies fún wa? They are speaking their own language. Àwọn yẹn rẹ́rìn. You look at these slaves. You see, I hate being subsumed into that level of slavery. We sometimes want to earn it. Is that what we should be? Is that what should be our lives? Let us watch out. Hausa language has become the national language of Nigeria. The president said it. He spoke in Hausa language. The Attorney General, speaking to the World Press Conference, spoke in Hausa language. It's not a joke. It has a very deep meaning than what we are looking at. And after all, those who attacked Igboho and all of us, I keep on saying, some of them were speaking French. So if the president spoke English language, those French members of the Nigerian army will not understand, so they have to speak Hausa language, which is common to them. You see where the story is coming, unraveling? I will stop so far there, because I have tried to see if anyone was going to ask me to ask a question, but looks like nobody is ready to ask a question. Or am I making any sense at all? Am I making any sense at all? And thank you anyway for listening to me. A one agenda project, the dissolution of the amalgam. And all of that should follow behind it. The re-establishment of our nation. We start as a pioneering nation. We start to take care of our kind so that we will not hear that a child dies or because the parents don't have money to pay for hospital bills. I remember mentioning the case of the young girl who died in Lagos when she came from the US with her sister, but because money was not transferred on time, the doctors couldn't perform the operation and she died. All those who will remember. And the evil that had been committed amongst us has made sure that the birds of freedom, the birds of life, the birds of grace that flew over our skies, Eye Adaba, Atilekeleke, they've all flown off. That's a big meaning. Because the blood of the departed, those tribes have been killed. Tokukuro, killed before their time, is crying for retribution. We have a task to perform. We have a big task to perform. Thank you. Thanks for having me tonight again. I've spent the better part of 1 hour plus with you, and I've asked no questions, even though it's a teaching section, but I really want questions to challenge some of the things I've said. And if anything is not clear to you, to let me know. Mr. Ade Thomas, I hope by this time, let me see, the face on.
Hello, sir.
Hello. I think yeah.
I thought people might want to ask a question.
Okay. I understand my host has let some numbers on the screen. There's a number from the US which is +13326008995, and for London +442039833553. If you have any questions, please call these numbers. He will redirect it to my number and I will answer your questions. Thank you. I'm waiting. We do really have a lot of questions to be asked. I want that challenge. I want us to look at every issue, as I have said. Hello? Okay.
illustration, even most of us know that what you are saying is right. But my own question would be, Daddy, with what is going on now and the situation we find ourselves, what is next?
The first thing is for all Egbe to focus on one person, which I said we should work with the prof. He's going to give us the direction for which we are going to follow, because he is the one that the international community recognizes. He's been on this trail even before this situation happened, before the establishment of YWC. And so he's the key to our freedom. So we should all stop our rigmaroling, we stop our posturing, and focus on that one agenda thing, the freedom of the Yoruba race. It's not about Egbe and all that. Other things will follow. So that's my answer to that question. And I will be getting in touch with him over this issue. Yeah, at some point before the end of this month, he's going to make an important statement to all of us. Because enough of fractionalizing to different organizations and writing all the time to our MPs and congressmen. We want one single powerful letter of intent to be written. So that's, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you really answered my question, but to addition to that, because with this kind of propaganda that we are just getting up and down, I didn't understand, despite the case, all what this Mr. Chief Sunday Igboho has really done in our generation here, which everybody support and trusted in him. And we didn't expect somebody like Otumba Gani was just trying to be molesting all his efforts, molesting all the efforts of Prof with propaganda statement. It looks very horrible.
Yeah, I understand. We are going to address that too. Hello? Are you still with me?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, are you still with me? Because yes, some sir. Other persons want to come in. Let me quickly answer that. What is going to happen is that he is going to be called to, we're going to rein him in and let him know that if he is actually from what he started when he opposed fascism, that he wanted Yoruba nation, and then what type of Yoruba nation, the question will be asked, because at that time we were some of those who supported him initially, because we felt that he was more active, he was not pro-government, even though OPC was set up, yeah, at that time. But fashion, because of his schemes for the federal government, it was a little bit out of focus on what we needed. And they were talking that time that Yoruba freedom within Nigeria. You can't have Yoruba freedom within Nigeria. It doesn't make any sense. That's what we were telling them. And he made a very big mistake during the 2014, or he made a big mistake. Is it a mistake? No, it's not a mistake. He lost a chance to promote the Yoruba cause in the 2014 conference, when the Northerners were saying that we should go our separate ways. That was the time they should have started their discussion. He said, we have not come here to talk about what divides us, but how we are going to work together. I was like disappearing into the earth when I heard that in London. I keep that, well, a nation is different from personal issue. A nation is more powerful than that, because if you hold the position of Kakafo, you must be a very bold man. You are not the one to tell people.
No, to me, sir, it's not even proving to be a Kakafo, because people in that higher rank caution what they talk to their race. Caution what they, even if
I agree with you totally what you are saying now.
Your race is misbehaving, there's a way and manner you call into caution, not publicly.
Exactly. You are right.
Not publicly. because what is to my own best understanding now is that Bímpé ó fi Chief Sunday Adéyẹmọ Ìgbòho Òòṣà, we stand by him.
All of us, I do.
People fi ń ṣe yẹ̀yẹ́ pẹ̀lú èdè tó jáde lẹ́nu wọn. Àwọn bí Mr. Gani Ọ̀túnba Gani ṣe wà ẹ̀, wọn ò ní respect fún elderly people. You that doesn't have respect for elderly people, you don't expect any other person to respect you. And tó bá dẹ̀ máa sọ̀rọ̀, wọ́n á máa refer pé àwọn tó wà ń diaspora kan gbé ẹnu ẹ̀ ń gbé. Why an elderly person that is holding a higher rank is talking in that manner? It's very unfair.
Yeah, that is where, what I was saying along the line, that everybody is a Yoruba person, whether good or bad. But at the same time, they should learn the ìwà ọmọlúwàbí. Kó mọ bí wọ́n ṣe ń gbé ọ̀rọ̀ lẹ̀, bí wọ́n ṣe ń sọ ọ̀rọ̀ wúwo. O lè sọ pé o láṣẹ lẹ́nu kó máa sọ̀rọ̀ kàmàkàmà sí àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá tó jẹ́ pé àwọn náà ní àṣẹ lẹ́nu. Wọ́n lè má máa gbé ọ̀pá rìn o.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni sá, gbogbo wa orí.
Torí wọ́n bí mọ́ gbogbo wa nílẹ̀ Yorùbá ni.
Oríṣà dání gbogbo wa nílẹ̀ Yorùbá.
So tábà dẹ̀ ni pé kó wà níwájú kó má máa ṣe ọ̀rọ̀ sọ. Torí nǹkan tó bá sọ, torí jọ́sí tí mò ń wò tó ń fi ọ̀pá gbálẹ̀ tó jókòó tó ń fa ọ̀pá gbálẹ̀ máa gbọ́ ìjókòó kọ́lẹ̀ kó wà mistake ní ẹ̀ máa gbọ́ ìjókòó kọ́lẹ̀ ẹ má bínú ẹjọ́ èèyàn mi, ẹ má bínú sí èèyàn wa náà sì ni ó máa kọ́gbọ́n, ẹ gbà bẹ́ẹ̀, ó máa kọ́gbọ́n, ẹ gbà bẹ́ẹ̀, ẹ má bínú sí ọmọdé ò ṣe o, àìmọ̀ ló ń ṣe. Ipò tó wà ní ó dàbẹ̀ pé ó ń ṣe ní kàmàkàmà. Ẹnìkan ń pè, jẹ́ kí n dá ilé ìlóhùn. Hello, ẹ kúrọ̀lẹ́.
Láti London mo ti pè.
Ok, ta ló ń sọ̀rọ̀?
Ṣínà ló ń sọ̀rọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀.
Ṣínà Adéníran. Ṣé ó dàbí pé tí mo mọ̀ ni àbí?
Ó dàbẹ̀.
Uncle Alex.
No, sir.
Ok, no. All right.
Nígbà tẹ̀ ṣe analysis yìí, ẹ sọ pé àwọn tó àtàkìlẹ̀ chief wọ́n sọ French. Wọ́n rò pé òkè tó máa sọ French, àwọn West African countries, àwọn countries tó wà ní Africa sọ French. Kò ní bí pé wọ́n import àwọn yẹn wá láti àwọn African countries yẹn ni. Àti France wọ́n ti wá.
No, they are directly from Niger. That's a fact.
Exactly.
Ó ti pẹ́ tán tí ẹsẹ̀ náà tó bá rántí, we've been watching it. Mọ́tò náà fi ń kó wọn wá láti Maradi àti tẹ́ bá ṣí máàpù West Africa tí mo ní kẹ́ ẹ ṣí rí nǹkan tí mo ń describe. Gbogbo border yẹn láti just north of the boundary of Benin Republic up to Lake Chad. Gbogbo àwọn ọbẹ̀ yẹn gbogbo bẹ̀ náà ti ń wọlé wá, gbogbo bẹ̀ náà ti ń wọlé wá, àwọn míì fi ẹsẹ̀ rìn wá. Ìgbà kan wọ́n ní population Katsina State 10 million torí wọ́n rìn wá, wọ́n rọ́ wá bí òjò ni, wọ́n wá register fún election, then wọ́n á tún padà lọ. They do a seesaw. You know what a seesaw is? Kán lọ, kán bọ̀, kán lọ, kán bọ̀. So mo mọ àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ kan tán ní Ghanaian ni wọ́n, àwọn nílé sí Kano, Nigeria làwọn náà, bọ́n ṣe máa ń sọ nìyẹn. So we are in danger. Kò yẹ ká wà nílùú yẹn, kó yẹ ká ti kúrò tipẹ́. Political accommodation tá a gbà ló sọ wá di bá a ṣe wà. Kílùú wa ìbá ti di one of the most developed part of the world nísìn.
What do you think is the way forward? What can we actually
The way forward is the campaign we are going through. Everybody should stop all this unnecessary ẹgbẹ́ kan. We should focus on what the prof can deliver for us, because that's the person the rest of the world is looking at. And then we are going to also defeat the contention of the United Nations pé tabapin there be a massive this thing. migration. That will not happen. Rather, what is going to happen is our people will gather together to develop their own land space. So that may pay any country.
Sorry to cut you, but the point is we are dealing with people that don't regard the laws, the nation. Now, what is our company for about 7 to 10 days now?
Yeah.
They've not given access to my real one.
Yeah, that is one of the that's one of the reasons why we are going to call for that dissolution. Yeah.
Yes, but how is it going to work? Because we are dealing with people.
Don't worry about how it's going to work. It's going to work. Don't worry about when we are in doubt. That's when you don't achieve.
Exactly.
So don't be in doubt. What I want to put into your mind, like Omo Yoruba, tí wọ́n bí ní ọmọ Yorùbá, kì í ṣe ìgbẹ́kẹ̀lé nìkan àti ìgboyà náà bí wa mọ́. So bó lọ kó yà fún mi ni, we are out of that place and we are going to arrange it correctly. So don't be bothered about how it's going to work. It is going to happen. That is one thing I want all of us, gbogbo àwọn èèyàn mi tẹ́ jẹ́ ọmọ Yorùbá, to have that ìgboyà.
Baba, you have so many calls waiting, so you might have to quickly the call response.
Okay.
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 Thank you very much.
Okay, Odabo. Yes, I'm free now. Hello. 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 Ẹ káàárọ̀ o. Ẹ kú gbogbo ẹ̀ o. Ta ló ń sọ̀rọ̀ o? Èèyàn mi.
Ẹ lára àwọn ọmọ yìí sá. Afẹ́jọ́ sí ètò mi sá.
Okay, bá a sọ̀rọ̀ yín lọ.
For quite time now. Because for me, I can say that at this point, you have opened you have unlocked the door to our history. We don't take it back 150 years. Baba Colonial could be about in 2, 3, 4 videos. Podcast about shape, about football, my you are quickly. So I have one question that has really that I have had on my mind for quite time now.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Ǹjẹ́ àṣírí kan wà sá nípa ìlú Nàìjíríà pẹ̀lú àwa ọmọ Yorùbá tó jẹ́ pé ẹ̀yin bàbá wa kì í sọ fún wa. Ẹ̀ka tó bá jẹ́ pọ̀rọ̀ yìí àṣà yìí tó bá ń pọ̀ bẹ̀rẹ̀ tó ṣe ṣe afẹ́fẹ́ it's all good but because láti kékeré I am a generation from 70s sir.
Okay. Ó mà ṣe o, ó mà ṣe o, ó mà ṣe o.
Well, àwọn bàbá wa tí wọ́n sọ àwọn ọba wa àwọn àgbàgbà wa wọ́n kẹ́kọ̀ọ́ tí wọ́n dá sí wọ́n lè ní strategy o wọ́n lè ní ọ̀nà pọ̀.
Nǹkan tó ṣẹlẹ̀ ni pé àwọn nǹkan lára wọn ti ṣe àṣìṣe kì í ṣe àwọn èèyàn àwọn nǹkan tí ò yẹ ká ṣe ó ti pọ̀ tá a ti ṣe. So àwọn kan tó in fact kí n sọ nípa ti àwọn Justin Brothers ní Federal Ministry of this thing. Wọ́n because of what they knew they just ìkànnì wọn mú tí kú because you can no longer take it pé Yorùbá náà ń fi ṣe ẹ̀yẹ káàkiri ní federal. So but wọn ò lè sọ̀rọ̀ nǹkan tó wá ṣẹlẹ̀ ni pé ibi tó yẹ kán ṣèpàdé sí wọn ò ṣe sí even tó yẹ kán bẹ̀ sí ń ṣe ìpàdé alalẹ́ pé ẹ lọ bá àwọn lágbájá báyìí nǹkan báyìí tá a bá ṣe báyìí a máa gbára wálẹ̀ kúrò nínú ìyà yìí a ní right láti sọ pé àṣemọ́ irọ́ ẹ wo Oshinaga yẹn for 5 years he struggled and struggled, nobody listened to him until he was murdered by federal agents. So
Sorry, Baba, keep an eye on your WhatsApp, sir. Keep an eye on your WhatsApp. I'm sending you messages on your WhatsApp, yeah?
Okay. Share the second one. Okay. Wo lọ́rọ̀ kan ṣá a tún sọ̀rọ̀ ẹ ní another time kò sáàṣírí kankan àìmọ̀ ló jẹ́ kí ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àti tí bá sọ fún ẹ pé the secretary general fún àwọn ọba Adédàpọ̀ Adérẹ̀mí Dolójúdé of Ìjọ Ọ̀ṣun for the past almost 20 years have been campaigning about the Yoruba nation. Last year ló ń pè mí pé a gbọ́dọ̀ fi ọ̀rọ̀ Yoruba nation ṣeré because ìgbà tí mo wá sí ààfin ní Ifẹ̀ the late okay thank you very much. Mi ò rí jẹ́ any call coming through now. Hello. Yeah. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni o, òun náà ni o. Ta ló ń sọ̀rọ̀ o? Ṣé èèyàn mi nìyẹn láti Japan? Láti Japan lọ́ọ̀lọ́ọ̀. So ẹ tún mú mi débẹ̀ yẹn. Ẹ ṣeun.
Daddy, ẹ mọ̀ pé the world is your footstool.
Ẹ ṣe lọ. Ẹ ṣe. Kí ni question?
A gbọ́ rúmọ̀ kan lánàá. Ẹni ẹ wọ́n ní pé ibi tí ìletò tí wọ́n ti bí òun. Wọ́n ní pé kò jìnnà sí University of Ife.
Okay.
Wọ́n nígbà táwọn wà kékeré pé màmá wọn máa lọ deliver àwọn kankan ní university yẹn. So àwọn ọmọ ọbẹ̀ yẹn bí ẹni mowó.
Okay.
Wọ́n ní pé náà kí ló ń bẹ̀. Ìgbé òru máa ń rí bí ọ̀sán ni. So wọ́n á láti bèèrè wọn pé ṣé iná Nàìjíríà náà ni yunifásitì yẹn lò tí òfin lọ ni. Wọ́n ní náà wọ́n ní yunifásitì yẹn ní dam of his own. Wọ́n supply wọn. Wọ́n dárúkọ orúkọ dam yẹn. So wọ́n á wọ́ndà pé gbogbo bá ṣe ní omi tó ní Nàìjíríà ni ṣé àwa lè dá àwọn yòókù ni.
Why not? Ẹ jẹ́ kí n tètè dáhùn question because other people. Sorry, gbogbo àwọn odò wa from luckily I did with special reference to geomorphology, the landscape study when I did geography and then geology. I rí pé when we studied, I rí pé àwọn odò wa most of them they flow rapidly into the sea free of charge. So ìgbà yẹn ti ń sọ náà sọ pé federal government ló lè ṣe dam and they still have been flowing. Kan tó bí wa náà ṣì ń ṣàn wọ́n dẹ̀ ṣì ń ṣàn báyìí àtúnfilẹ̀ why don't we harness them to create that's why I'm saying a policy of rapidly damming all these rivers, not damming, harnessing and harvesting part of the rivers on the side and channel it through pipelines into the downstream and generate electricity and put back the water into the rivers. It's very simple technology. And in fact, there are hydro systems like pé àgbàrá òjò tó ń ṣàn yẹn tó bá jẹ́ constant one wọ́n máa ń gbé small hydro distance sí tó pé lè provide electricity fún àwọn wà lè ṣe gbogbo wọn yẹn. There are so many things available to us but bàtà bá jẹ́ Nàìjíríà wọ́n ní exclusive list first exclusive list more and that is why we have to follow the one policy agenda, the dissolution of Nigeria.
No, we have to become an exclusive nation.
Yeah, that's it, Yomi. So, any other question? Any other question? Okay. And in addition, North of Lagos, North of Ife, want to increase the generating capacity. One have supply every nook and corner of the university, nearly 60, and some of it to be supplied to the district. That has just been done in the last month. That's North of Ibadan. So it's North of Ife. Ibadan no need dam, but one share kini sibe, and many other places. And we will talk about electricity and dam construction and electricity and Yorubaland in another topic.
All right.
Okay. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. Any other person? Are we done? Are we done?
Baba, you have one more calls for me to put through to you, yeah?
Okay then. All right. Hello. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Mo ń gbọ́ yín o.
Hello, sir.
Ta ni mò ń bá sọ̀rọ̀ o?
Mrs. Aina.
Ẹ ṣé gan ni ẹ kú wo. Ẹ má bínú pé mo mú yín jókòó ní ọgọjọ́ orí. So ṣé ẹ bínú sí mi?
Àwọn òsì lóru náà lọ́yẹ́ làwọ̀ wà.
Níbo ni ẹ?
Ẹ ṣé gan ni Canada làwà.
Ok, ẹ ṣé
gan ni ẹ kú akitiyan wa, ẹ kú gbogbo ẹ kú ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́. Àdúpẹ́ gan ni Adépọ́lù ní ìfòrò láìsí wáyé náà. Kì í lè béèrè kankan because tá a bá ti gbọ́ gbogbo ẹ̀tàn wo be so overwhelmed and flabbergasted that you know the kind of knowledge that we get from you. Thank you so much.
Ẹ ṣé gan ni.
Kọ́kọ́ tí mo kàn fẹ́ béèrè ni pé ṣẹ́rí láti ọ̀nà àgbára there was a time tí wọ́n lọ fẹ́ ṣe express lọ sí Sokoto. Láti àgbára àwa ń gbé òkùnkùn làwa ń gbé. So gbogbo nísìnyí láti wá nílẹ̀ ní pé àṣé kí ọgbọ́n wọn ní pé kí wọ́n gba gbogbo ibẹ̀ yẹn kọ́ gbàdé kí kọ́ lè fi já sí bóyá
Badagry. Wọ́n fẹ́ kọ́nà sí Benin Republic ní so that wọ́n á máa lo Benin Republic torí wọn ò fẹ́ wa.
Bí mo kàn fẹ́ béèrè àwọn tí wọ́n ń gbé gbogbo áfíìsì yìí ni wọ́n pa káàkiri wọn. Báwo ni àwọn Yorùbá ọba ní kí n pè torí mi tí ọ̀tún ní bí ẹ̀ máa náwó tí wọ́n àti àwọn gọ́vnọ̀ wa àwọn representative wa báwo la ṣe máa fi òkú fún wọn lọ́rùn tá a máa fàwọn ìpèsè àwọn èèyàn wa wọn ò lè sá kúrò ní gbogbo bíbá wọn ò lè pamọ́ tán wọn wá lójú tó sá kúrò torí àwọn èèyàn sá kúrò.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni o àwọn èèyàn sá kúrò òótọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ lẹ́wí.
Àwọn èèyàn láti wá gba gbogbo tó báwo lè ṣe máa ṣe ẹ bá wa kọ́ àwọn tí wọ́n wà ní position ẹ bá wa kọ́ wọn ẹ bá wa pè wọ́n ẹ bá wa kọ́ wọn àwọn òkú sí níbi tá a ti lè bọ̀ ṣùgbọ́n a lè vote a lè sign petition that's little that we can do bí wọ́n bá ìrànlọ́wọ́ tí wọ́n bá lè ṣe kò sí kankan wọ́n ti ta gbogbo agbára lọ́wọ́ ara wọn láì ṣàwà.
Ẹ ṣé gan ni.
Ọjọ́ mi kàn fẹ́ sọ nìyẹn màá máa gbọ́ òun ní láìpẹ́ kí wọ́n tún.
Ẹ ṣeun kìjẹ́ tún ṣàlàyé sí nǹkan tẹ́ fẹ́ ẹnu bà yẹn ó wà so important tí à ń pé ìlọsíwájú tó yẹ kó wà ní gbogbo the so-called Nigeria wọ́n dí tiwa lọ́wọ́ ni ní ti ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ṣe rí níbi ọ̀nà ibi tí mo ní kẹ́ trace lórí map yẹn up that section ní Yewa there's a dam called the Ọ̀yàn dam ó ní generating set láti 1984 tán ti fi síbẹ̀ Buhari náà ni ò jẹ́ kán parí iṣẹ́ kó máa 9 megawatts of electricity ẹ mọ iye tí yẹn jẹ́ tó lè supply about 50,000
Baba, I have an urgent call for you, sir. I have an urgent call for you.
Okay, so a tún máa sọ̀rọ̀ yẹn ẹ lọ wo fídíò mi tí mo ṣe lórí electricity ó wà lórí YouTube. Okay, ó dàbọ̀. Hello? Mo ń gbọ́ yín o, ta ni mo ń bá sọ̀rọ̀ o? Ẹ ṣeun gan-an ni o. Ẹ kálẹ́ o. Okay. Okay, ẹ ṣeun. Ẹ kú ìfaradà ìlú yẹn o.
Ọlọ́run àti wa máa fi ṣe náà ṣe tà.
Àmín àṣẹ. So, kí ni ìbéèrè yín?
Question fún mi sà. Ìbéèrè mi ni sà pé wọ́n sọ pé kìíní yìí ń sìn Yorùbá nation tá à ń jà fún yìí pé tó léwu tó ṣe lè possible ni pé tí ò bá sí election ní all the south west states ni ò ní possible so mo kàn fẹ́ find out pé ṣé lóòótọ́ ni àbí.
Ẹyẹ sòótọ́ inú ẹ̀ fún yín that will be the greatest mistake if we wait for the election. Because what they will do is they just declare it and then when now one say Champagne South East now there was some states to on election in 2015 they went back to do it later. So we are not waiting for it. We are on a campaign trail to call for the dissolution. Emma listens to anybody and by the grace of God if all of us taba for fún pẹ̀lú professor ó pẹ́ jù by middle of next year we are out. So ẹni ìgbẹ́kẹ̀lé yẹn ọ̀rọ̀ election kan lélẹ́yìí tó wà nílẹ̀. We are not going to make 1964 wọ́n ṣe mistake yẹn o tí wọ́n ṣe election ní western region yet àwọn èèyàn wọn lọ represent ara wọn ní federal house ẹ lọ wádìí. So nǹkan kò ní bù wá jẹ lẹ́ẹ̀mejì ànígbà àní fọ́jú ká tún ṣe mistake yẹn pé a fẹ́ dúró de election pé àní ṣe election irọ́. They will do it if we wait for that time. So our option is to work hard to get everybody láti sọ̀rọ̀ sójú kan náà láti gbé ìwé sí àgbáyé. We are going to have a world press conference on this because Nigeria is a created country. It's not a natural country. And that's what we are going to prove. Àti pé ọ̀rọ̀ pé bóyá ó máa cost kínní gbogbo àwa tá a wà ní orí òkèèrè nsìn ṣebí asá kúrò ni. We don't want that to continue and that's why we want a Yoruba nation to start so that we can develop according to our strength. Mo dẹ̀ ti sọ fún àwọn yòókù àwọn other states ní the north and east pé our campaign is not about disintegration, it's a simple dissolution. Let everybody stay in his own home. We are not disintegrating, we are only dissolving. There's a difference and there is not an uprising and it's not secession. We are not. Who are we seceding from? Nobody. So nǹkan tí ó yẹ kó bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí yé gbogbo wa nìyẹn sìn. We are calling for the dissolution of the amalgam. Torí mistake ni wọ́n fi pa wá pọ̀ and that mistake has to be rectified by the dissolution. Ẹ ṣáà mọ̀ pé tí wọ́n bá pa company méjì pọ̀ tó amalgamate tán just so that they can make it. Ìgbà tó bá make it kí ni wọ́n máa ń ṣe? Ṣé wọ́n dissolve ẹ̀ ni? Wọ́n kì í sọ pé disintegrate, wọ́n dissolve ẹ̀ ni èèyàn mi Yínká. So kẹgbọ́ kẹ sọ fún àwọn èèyàn we are calling for dissolution of the amalgam. It's a failed business enterprise. Torí trade ni wọ́n ṣe fún tẹ́lẹ̀ àwa la sọ di nation particularly àwa Yorùbá láti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí gbé pápá ya ní nation nígbà tá bàbá wa kọ́ ló dá nation yẹn lẹ̀. Ẹ ṣé ó dàbọ̀ náà a tún máa ríra bára wa sọ̀rọ̀ so ọ̀rọ̀ election kan lélẹ́yìí o. Ẹ ṣé. Okay. Hello. Yes. Yeah. Ẹ má worry, those things will be solved. Ní máa sọ lójú ọpọ́n báyìí.
But try and keep it to about 2 minutes max. 2 minutes maximum per callers.
Okay, ó dàbọ̀ náà. So there's somebody on the line. Ó dàbọ̀ ó ti drop. Hello. Okay. Hello. Ta ni mo ń bá sọ̀rọ̀?
Olúwaṣínà láti Australia.
Ẹ ṣeun o. Ṣé ọ̀sán lẹ́wà ní àbí òru? Ẹ̀kẹ̀lẹ̀ ṣé gan ni àárọ̀ ṣé mi ò disturb yín púpọ̀ jù? Àárọ̀ Sunday àbí? Ẹ̀kẹ̀lẹ̀ ẹ béèrè question yín.
Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹ máa ní sùúrù fún Yorùbá tèmi o.
Don't worry, gbogbo ala máa tún kọ́ náà, gbogbo wa ní pátápátá. Òun la máa fi ṣe iléèwé wa àti gbogbo ẹ̀, òun la máa fi kọ́ gbogbo nǹkan tá a bá ṣe, engine tá a bá ṣe Yorùbá la máa kọ́ sí lára. Báwọn Japanese àti Chinese bá ṣe máa ṣe nìyẹn lágbára Olódùmarè. Ok, ẹ béèrè question yín.
Question mi pé ǹjẹ́ ó wà possible by now ká ní one central body to galvanize the movement wa yìí to wà more established, because so far a ní àwọn pé bàbá wa Akíntóyè ló ń ṣe ìkíní yìí, but ṣé ìlànà ọmọ Òdùwà yẹn ìlànà àsọ̀bẹ̀ náà dásílẹ̀ ṣé àwọn ní major body tó ń galvanize ìkíní yìí? Bí èmi ṣe ń wò ó ìgbẹ̀yìn òye wa.
Ok, ẹ jẹ́ kí n ṣàlàyé. That's the major tax tí I faced lẹ́yìn ẹnujọ́ mẹ́ta ẹ̀. We want to bring everybody to the same umbrella, and the Baba as the focal point, because the international community has recognized him as the voice of the Yorubas. But àwọn ò fẹ́ máa gbọ́ lẹ́tà lọ́tún lósì from the group yìí, from group that is a confusion that we should speak with one voice. Kì í ṣe ẹgbẹ́ voice o, that is, we should come out with a document representing what we want. They already know. After all, King Sofi, they have already allowed us to establish a Yoruba Global Trust Fund account. But because we want to bring everybody together so that what the intention of it is that àwọn ló wá everybody àtẹ̀ntí ò ní ìbàjẹ́ tọrọ lẹ ní kẹfì síbẹ̀ òun la máa fi bẹ̀rẹ̀ development wa. We don't want to borrow money from the international monetary system to start our development, just like kíní ṣe ìyẹn Israel, gbogbo owó tó ń fi ń ṣe development wọn from their kíní ní trust fund ni wọ́n fi ń gbé jáde, and there are people who are accountants who are working on it. So that is one thing we are trying to establish. Although the account has been established, àwọn kan ti sáré fowó sí because they believe in the cause, but I need slow down. Let us get every Yoruba organization to understand that we have to focus on one position. And meanwhile, ọ̀rọ̀ security tó wà nílẹ̀, we now demand for funding, maybe from the same account or a separate unit account that we all collectively we agree on. But development account wa yẹn, the Yoruba Global Trust Fund yẹn, ó ti wà nílẹ̀ nsìn. So I'm going to speak to Prof in the next in the next few days, in the next few weeks, before the end of this month. There'll be an acclamation of that intent, because we need to, like you heard me saying that we have a one issue agenda, the dissolution of Nigeria, so that our people will come out and start to develop according to our strength. I don't want to repeat it again. If you want to listen to some of my talks, Google YouTube there are so many things I've said lórí waterways, lórí electricity, lórí as many yẹ carry. Some of them don't have my name, but tẹ́ bá tẹ̀ rí mi níbẹ̀ pẹ̀lú orí kónkóló mi níbẹ̀. So don't bother about how my head looks like, but just listen to me. Ẹ ṣé gan ni. Okay.
My second issue will be
yes.
evidence and my other condition on that account. Because that's very important.
Yeah.
Baba, more caller.
Okay, another caller. And ẹnìkan tún ti ń wá, wọ́n ti ń pè mí pé another caller from US. Okay. Ìjọ́ mi ẹ join up again. Ṣé gbọ́? Okay. Okay. Hello. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́. Hello. Ẹ má bínú. Àwọn èèyàn wa náà ni from Australia. Ta ló ń sọ̀rọ̀? Hello. Oh, okay. Is that the person from Australia?
Yes.
Okay. Cut no, because there are some other people coming on, so that I can give attention to more. But tẹ́ bá fẹ́ more information, lọ sí YouTube. Ẹ rí àwọn kíní tí mo ti ṣe in the last months. There are many of them. So I just pick on one and you see it. But the issue you have raised is a current issue that we are going to tackle. Thank you very much for raising that issue. Ẹ ṣé, ó dàbọ̀. Yeah. Hello. Ta ló ń sọ̀rọ̀? Ẹ káalẹ́ o, ẹ ṣeun. Ta ni? Oh, ẹ ṣé gan-an. Ẹ kú ìfaradà mi ò torí ó dà pé late program ni mò ń ṣe. Ẹ má bínú sí wa o, ẹ jọ̀ọ́.
Ẹjọ́ sọ̀rọ̀ àwọn tó ṣe lọ yìí náà ni Ọlọ́run á fún yín ṣe.
Àmín.
Àwọn Fúlàní tó ń pààyàn ní gbogbo nǹkan tó pààyàn lé ní Ìbàdàn.
Níbàdàn.
Lénìí ẹjọ́ ṣé àdé àwọn tó lágbára ni kọ́ ní káwọn bí ọba méjì kan ṣì gbá. Wọ́n má ti ṣí gbá wá mọ̀ pé kọ́tà ń sọ òótọ́ ni a fẹ́ lọ.
Ọ̀rọ̀ lẹ́sàn yẹn máa bá kí sọ̀rọ̀ tí mo lè dáhùn lórí afẹ́fẹ́ báyìí, but ó dà bẹ́ ṣe dálẹ̀ yìí, a máa ṣe nǹkan lórí ẹ̀.
Tí bá lágbára bẹ́ẹ̀ ni màá ní pé màá bọ́ sí gbòòrò ni pé kọ́ ṣì gbá wá mọ̀ pé òótọ́ lọ̀rọ̀ tá à ń sọ.
Ó ní àwọn tí mo máa bá sọ̀rọ̀ yìí. Ṣé gbọ́?
A fẹ́ lọ sílé àdé lọ, a fẹ́ lọ ṣọdún mẹ́sìn-ín, Fúlàní payọ̀ kò jẹ́ kí ìjà.
Èmi náà nǹkan mi ò lè lọ. In fact, tó ti pẹ́ tẹ̀mí ò lè lọ mọ́. Tó ló ti pẹ́ tẹ̀mí tí ń challenge wọn.
Ìjẹ̀bú nílẹ̀ ẹ̀bẹ̀ yẹn wọ́n kì í ṣe wọ́n payọ̀ náà. Lẹ́ni sẹ́ni tí kò jí àrò tí kò mọ̀wọ́ tí kò mẹsẹ̀. Ọ̀tọ̀ làwọn tó kó ọ̀tọ̀ lẹ́ni tó gba kókó. Àwọn alágbára kan wà ká sọ lórí transition tí gbogbo ayé gbọ́. Àwọn tó bá ní kọ́ jáde, wọ́n fún àwọn méjì ní sáàpù kan ṣígbá. Àtijọ́ máa ní kọ́ lọ ṣígbá ni. Wọ́n ṣígbá, wọ́n jẹ́ karójú ṣayé. Ilé ìsìnkú.
Ṣé ẹ sọ pé àmì nǹkan tẹ́ sọ yẹn òótọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ ni, but ní ayé ìsìn àwọn tó ń jọba ò jọba gidi. Nǹkan tó wà níbẹ̀ nìyẹn. Àwọn gbogbo nǹkan tó ń ṣe é lẹ̀.
Ìjẹ̀bú Mùṣí, Ìjẹ̀bú Fẹ̀. Gbogbo àwọn Ìjẹ̀bú yẹn kó Ìṣàgámù nírẹ̀mọ. Gbogbo ọ̀dẹ̀ wa kọ́ nípọ̀ sójú, gbogbo ayé kọ́ nípọ̀ sójú kan náà ni o. Akọ̀ fẹnusọ ni o. Fúlàní dẹ̀ ṣe é ṣe nǹkan tó ń ṣe, ó lè ń pọ́tọ́, ó lè ń payọ̀.
A máa ṣì máa.
Àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ Ọlọ́run rẹ o.
Lágbára Ọlọ́run Lédùmarè, ọ̀rọ̀ wa débẹ̀. Ọ̀rọ̀ wa dẹ̀ ní agbára láti ṣe nǹkan tí a fẹ́. Àwọn ọba yẹn, àwọn náà wọ́n ní nípa láti kó lọ́rọ̀ tó wà nílẹ̀ yìí. Kán dìde sí, tí wọ́n bá dìde sí, àwọn jagunjagun ìlú wọ́n á dìde sí, torí ó ní structure.
Ọlọ́ka ilẹ̀ ni wọ́n ní láago méjì òru. Wọ́n bá gbogbo nǹkan jẹ́.
ìyẹn ló sọ.
ìjọ láyé àwọn bàbá wa á ti rán wọn ṣẹ́ ẹni tó fẹ́ gbàgẹ̀ mọ lọ sí mojúmọ́sán tó bá pàdé ọmọ ẹ̀ lọ́nà á ní kó lọ sùn déwú. á ní kó lọ sùn déwú. òpólẹ́ ayé dẹ̀wà di oríkàlùkù dẹ̀wà ń wú báyìí tábà ti tọ́ ṣúkẹ́ṣúkẹ́ àbá gbàgbéra ni. ẹgbẹ́ ẹlẹ́ni tí wọ́n rí ìbò òyìnbó tó wà la ọlọ́mọ lórí ọgbọ́pọ̀ ìsìlẹ̀ ìsìn. ọlọ́run á fún gbogbo wa ṣe o tó ní gbogbo wa ní o.
àmín. màá bá àwọn tó yẹ láti bá sọ̀rọ̀ màá bá wọn sọ nǹkan tẹ́ ẹ sọ yìí torí ó wá di pé a gbọ́dọ̀ bẹ̀ sí dìde kíákíákíá ní nísìnyí kámákámá.
lára jẹ́ mo bá lọ sí mojúmọ́sán tó bá pàdé ọmọ ẹ̀ lọ́nà á ní kó lọ sùn lédò òun.
bẹ́ẹ̀ ni o.
kò gbọ́dọ̀ pàdé ọmọ ẹ̀ tó bá ń gbẹ́rù lọ.
kò wọ́n gbọ́dọ̀. ṣèbí mo rántí pé ara nǹkan tó ṣẹlẹ̀ ní Ṣàgámù ńgbà kan nìyẹn tó dá ogun díẹ̀ lẹ̀ láàrin àwọn Fúlàní àti àwọn èèyàn wa. ó yẹ kí èmi rò bí wọ́n ti kóra wọn padà sílùú wọn ni àṣé wọ́n sì wà ní Ṣàgámù.
wọ́n ti pààyàn lẹ́nìí wọ́n sọ pé wọ́n pààyàn wọ́n kidnap wọ́n dẹ̀ ṣe kọ̀tínì kò sẹ́ tó máa mú wọn àwọn bó dẹ̀ sọ̀rọ̀ ọlọ́run á fún wa ṣe o.
ẹ ṣe gan ni à á sọ jáde à á sọ ẹ ṣe gan ni ẹ ṣe yà. hello ẹ turn down kíní tẹ́lẹ̀ yín mi ò gbọ́ yín kí á lè ó.
Torí ọ̀rọ̀ mi lọ wá ní pé gbogbo tó ń sọ ni mo gbọ́.
Okay.
I agree with it.
Okay.
Lẹ́yìn nínà dàbà sáìn èmi lè di sáìn nínà ṣé a ní another website láti lọ to register wọ́n sọ fún wa.
màá jẹ́ kẹ́ ẹ mọ̀ nípa yẹn because àwọn iṣẹ́ kan wà tí a gbọ́dọ̀ tètè ṣe between now and the end of the month. That is getting a full umbrella position, not organization. Ibi tí gbogbo wa máa tẹ̀lé, whether you are kíní o Odua kíní kan redemption ìlànà we are going to focus to one source now. And Ninas is for this whole of the southwest and southeast. That is, it represents the southern protectorate of Nigeria, the country. So yeah, very important, and that is why we are calling for the dissolution of the amalgam through a referendum to be organized. So all other things, ó máa ṣẹlẹ̀ torí bóyá ti gbọ́ tí mo sọ pé there's already an established this global trust fund account tí wọ́n ti sign sí so but tí ìfẹ́ káwọn èèyàn máa fowó sí láì jẹ́ pé it's properly recorded because we are setting up it's a very big account and it's going to be the source of our development so mo lè sọ yẹn mọ́ but we are going to make it all right for everybody tó bá jẹ́ £1 ló ní fi síbẹ̀ tó bá jẹ́ £1 billion ló ní fi síbẹ̀ it will be accounted for.
I understand that. Ṣé please any platform that you register anything apart from that dinner?
Say there's no other thing to sign. If you have signed Nina, leave it at that. Mo sorry o, my light ló ń kọrin yẹn o. Iná tí mo tọ̀ sí bíbá tẹ́ bá gbọ́ tó ń kọrin. Okay. Okay then. All right. Okay. Ẹ ṣeun. hello ta ni mò ń bá sọ̀rọ̀ hello ẹ ṣe Adamson ẹ kálẹ́ o láti ibo nìyẹn o
láti Chicago
ọ̀nà jìn ẹ pẹ̀lẹ́ ẹ kú gbogbo ẹ̀ ṣé kí ni ìrọ̀lẹ́ lẹ wà báyìí. ok ẹ pẹ̀lẹ́.
mo ṣe sọ fún bàbá heritage pé ìgbàkigbà tí bá ti ń gbóhùn yín
ọkàn mi máa ń balẹ̀ ní pẹ̀lú ọ̀rọ̀ Yorùbá nation táwọn eléyìí. Honestly speaking, àyà mi máa ń jáǹgbà mí ni ọtí bá ti gbóhùn yín àwọn ọ̀rọ̀ tẹ́ sọ inú mi máa ń dùn ní màá tó wá jẹun dáadáa.
ẹ ṣé gan ni sorry the truth will make us free. The truth will make us free. Àti pé tá a bá mọ̀ ẹ́ pé ọmọ Yorùbá ni wá ká máa ní ìgboyà ká ní pé ká máa ní ìfòyà ká ní ìgboyà.
Ká má ṣe
iyèméjì ìyẹn ló máa pa wá. Ká fọ̀nà sí ọ̀nà ibi tá à ń lọ bí prof ṣe sọ ọkọ̀ ojú omi ti ṣí àlè padà sẹ́yìn mọ́ kò sẹ́ni tó lè dá wa dúró mọ́. The only solution is getting all of us together now àti àwọn diaspora àtàyè àtijọ́ tó wà ní Brazil àti kíní gbogbo ala máa papọ̀ láti gbalẹ̀ Yorùbá kúrò torí àwọn kan mo ti bá àwọn kan ṣe interview ní Haiti wọn Yorùbá àti Haiti ni wọ́n kì í ṣe diaspora ti sin o diaspora time slavery àwọn náà ti ń bá prof sọ̀rọ̀ àwọn ti kíní Bahamas àti gbogbo ẹ̀ so that if we see it now gbogbo àwọn ẹgbẹ́ yẹ́lẹyẹ̀lẹ tá a ní káàkiri they all are doing a good job. Let us come together now and talk with one voice. Ká má máa kọ lẹ́tà oríṣiríṣi káàkiri àwọn fi wá ṣe yẹ ni so nǹkan tó wà ń bẹ̀ nìyẹn. Ẹ ṣé.
Ọ̀rẹ́ mi kan ló sọ fún mi lálẹ́ yìí pé ọ̀rọ̀ tó ń ṣe fún Sunday Igboho yìí ó ti jẹ́ kó rẹ olúkálùkù mo ní ẹ̀yin ló rẹ̀ kò rẹ èmi o.
Báwo ló ṣe fẹ́ràn yàn? Àní gbogbo no attack. That's what I said. They attacked us. Ṣé a máa dúró sẹ́yìn ni? Can't continue. No way. Wọ́n lẹ́nìkan sì sọ fún mi pé wọ́n tún ti lọ lóru láti lọ pa àwọn èèyàn ní àwọn ibìkan ní Ìbàdàn àti other places nísìn. So òru náà rìn àwọn jàgùdà òru ni wọ́n including federal government because they do the same thing. Báwo ni káàlù ṣe máa kó troop wọ́n ní over 200 ló lọ sí ilé Ìgbòho tó bẹ̀ sí shoot. Imagine that for a single person.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni ṣé ní nǹkan tó ń ṣe fún Chief Sunday Igboho yẹn ó kàn dùn mí pé àwọn kan ẹ̀mí wọn bá lọ ni.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Ó jẹ́ kí wọ́n tó pariwo wá síta because ó bá wọn television house yẹn wọn kì í gbé ọ̀rọ̀ wa tẹ́lẹ̀. Nísìnyí wọ́n ti ń gbé ọ̀rọ̀ wa. Wọ́n ti gbé ọ̀rọ̀ wa sí ìgbà tó DSS sọ pé àwọn làwọn ṣiṣẹ́ yẹn.
Tí Anthony General tó tún lọ sọ èdè Hausa ó ti sọ pé àwa kì í ṣe ara Nàìjíríà mọ́ nìyẹn. There's a coup d'etat, a silent one. We no longer belong. That's the word I'm using. And they cannot fault me. You are supposed to address us. Address àwọn èèyàn tí yín. Address àwa. Inú ògbédè yìí.
Bàbá dẹ̀ ṣe mítìn ẹ̀ ní kò tọ́sùnà ẹ̀ dẹ̀ ń ṣe mítìn tí.
Ẹ ṣèdè yín. Ẹ ṣé gan ni ẹ ṣé gan ni àmì àṣẹ ẹ ṣeun right okay then bye ẹbí ni ẹ okay bye. Abi, are you going to round up now? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience and attention and listening and your various questions. I hope I have tried enough to be able to satisfy your doubts and your questions. Next time will be ọjọ́ mi ọjọ́ rẹ. Ó dàárọ̀, ẹ káàárọ̀, ẹ káàsán.
Ẹ̀yin wa ẹ jẹ́ ká jọ jùmọ̀ kọ orin ilẹ̀ Yorùbá àwa ni ògo adúláwọ̀.